Fuel subsidy is gone. At least that was the first statement of the present regime of government in Nigeria. Whether we are reaping the dividends of the fuel subsidy removal or we are suffering the effects of the fuel subsidy removal is the subject here before us today. Welcome to the Diary of a Broken Man, where we dissect political, economic and social issues concerning our country Nigeria and Africa. As usual, join me in this journey by subscribing, by liking, by engaging in the comment section, sharing it to as many people as possible so we can save our country Nigeria and put ourselves back on track among the table of nations. Today we touch on the economic situation in Nigeria, the inflation rate, the foreign exchange, the fuel subsidy removal and its effect on everything around the country, how we live our lives, our economy, and the average life of the individual in Nigeria. And then we see how we can make things better, what the government should do to make things get better for Nigerians. As usual, welcome. So the first thing I need to understand, or we need to understand, is the economic policies and inflation situation in Nigeria, especially with the given points. Inflation at 33.69%, fuel subsidy removal and its fallout, and the CBN's foreign exchange policies and naira volatility. So we shall break these down in series so that we understand it together, how these things affect the common man. First, inflation at 33.69%. This is considerably very high. In fact, I remember that many nations around the world, around the globe, see even 10% increase as hyperinflation. And now we have 33.69%, over 23.69% above the hyperinflation, mark of other nations. Tell me how the common individual survives this. If not that Nigerians are good in moving on, suffering and smiling, the average individual will shake the Great Depression after the World War I, shake the Great Depression, and see the inflation rate as at then, 10%, 9%, 7%, and people were crying. In fact, the term Great Depression shows you how people saw 10%, 9%, even 15% increase, and today we have 33.69. What nation survives with this? Let's go a step further. So, common reasons for this could be demand pull, cash push factors, monetary factors like too much money in supply, but given other points mentioned, fuel subsidy and the Forex policies might be key contributors to the particular situation in our country, Nigeria. So let's talk about fuel subsidy. Now, many countries, including our country, Nigeria, have subsidies on fuel to keep prices down, because what subsidy does is, say fuel should be 2,300 or 1,300, the government pays 1,000, and the citizens, the government subsidizes with 1,000 naira per liter for each person. Let's say we have 10,000 liters, the government subsidizes 1,000 for each of those 10,000 liters of fuel in circulation. Then the citizens now pay the remaining 300. That's what subsidy is all about. So when the government removes that 1,000 naira, the citizens now have to cough out the 1,300 naira they are supposed to pay. Unfortunately, back in 2012, the then government wanted to remove these same policies, and the people in government now spearheaded that Operation Occupy Nigeria. The Igbo say that he who kills with the knife doesn't allow the knife to go before him. That is it. That's what we are suffering from. The same people who fought tooth and nail to see that fuel subsidy was not removed back in 2012 are now the people championing the fuel subsidy and trying to shut everybody up when you talk about it. It's unfortunate. So let's keep going. Now, removing subsidies increase fuel prices. But it's not just fuel price. It has a cascading effect on everything, including the fuel price, the transportation, goods, and the other services around the country. Because electricity in Nigeria, like it or not, we do not have a steady power supply. We need generators to run. Most industries, most companies, most offices run generators. They need fuel. Transportation, they need gas, they need fuel, they need petroleum products to transport goods and services around. If you go to a hotel, you need to pay, and they charge you even with the fuel cost. So everything is everything. It's a cascade. It has a cascading effect on everything around the country. Now, this is a classic cost push inflation scenario. When the government removes subsidies, the immediate effect is higher fuel prices, leading to increased costs for businesses, which then pass those costs onto customers. That would drive up the overall price level, contributing to inflation. However, subsidies are often removed to reduce government expenditures and they redirect funds to other areas like infrastructure or social programs. But the fallout here probably refers to public discontent, protests or strikes, which can further disrupt economic activities. How do you remove fuel subsidy? And there is no place we are seeing it. If you remove fuel subsidy, then that money that comes from fuel subsidy or that should have been used for fuel subsidy should go into some other thing. So that people are seeing okay, we are paying higher price of fuel, but okay, we are now seeing good roads. So consequent of this removal of fuel subsidy, we are now seeing hospitals, we are now seeing constant electricity, we are now seeing, everything. But that is not the case in Nigeria. So again, second issue, there is the Central Bank of Nigeria Forex policies. Nigeria has had issues with foreign exchange shortages. The CBN might have policies like fixed exchange rates, multiple exchange rates, or restriction on accessing Forex. The effect is that it can lead to a black market for Forex, where the Naira trades at a much weaker rate than the official one. If the CBN is trying to manage the exchange rate, but there is volatility, that affects the value of the Naira. A weaker Naira makes imports more expensive, leading to imported inflation. For example, if Nigeria imports a lot of goods like machineries, electronics, Nigeria imports everything, even toothpick, refined products, everything. We import everything. This causes a depreciation in Naira, making imports costlier and contributing to inflation. Putting this together, the removal of subsidies increases domestic costs across the economy, and Forex policies leading to a volatile and weaker Naira, which makes import even more expensive. Both factors are contributing to the higher inflation rates around Nigeria. Additionally, if the CBN is tightening monetary policy to combat inflation, like raising interest rates, that could have mixed effects. Higher rates might reduce borrowing and spending, but in an environment where cost push factors are dominant, it might not be very effective and could even stifle economic growth. But why would the CBN policies cause Naira volatility? If they are trying to control the exchange rate but failing, whereas due to insufficient Forex reserves, then the market forces push the Naira down, causing depreciation. Maybe the CBN had to devalue the Naira or to make more flexible exchange rates, which led to sudden drop in value. Investors and the business losing confidence, and this could exacerbate this volatility. A big issue in Nigeria. So the key drivers, the impact of fuel subsidy removal. The removal of subsidies led to a sharp rise in fuel prices, triggering cost-push inflation. Transportation, manufacturing, agricultural costs surged. In fact, the cascading effect was so much. We saw a 33.69 inflation immediately. Everything went up. But the fallout is not even that they remove subsidy. The average Nigerian knows that subsidy removal is like a saving grace. The average Nigerian also knows that subsidy is not sustainable. But the problem is, if you remove subsidy, where do you channel it? And for a situation in Nigeria that depends so much on oil, we shall talk about oil and dependency on oil. For a country that depends so much on oil, and in this present situation where the oil price is fluctuating, removing subsidy without planning is dangerous. And we are reaping the adverse effect immediately. So it's a hard decision, but if we did it earlier, 2012 could have been the best time to do this. CBN Forex policies and Naira volatility. Forex challenge. The Central Bank of Nigeria likely faced Forex shortage, leading to policies such as exchange rate restriction or multiple rates. This created a black market where the Naira depreciated even significantly. Imported inflation. A weaker Naira increased the cost of imports like machineries, like cars, like everything we import in Nigeria. The price is increased because we have a weak Naira against the dollar, driving up production cost and the consumer production. Now, structural factors. Oil dependency. Nigeria's reliance on oil export leaves it vulnerable to global price swings. Low oil revenues reduce reserves and pressuring the Naira. Import reliance. Lack of diversification in export and domestic production heightened sensitivity to exchange rate fluctuation. A country that does not produce and does not export is bound to suffer high inflation because everything is imported. We need to move from consumption to production. That is the only way. Export. Nigeria used to be one of the biggest exporters of cocoa. What happened to these things? How did we lose our agriculture? Because of oil boom of the 1970s, we lost everything and we went back to square one. And how are we going to salvage this? Because it's becoming messier every day, becoming messier and messier. Now let's talk about the interconnectedness of these challenges. First is cost push versus monetary policies. Inflation is primarily cost pushing, limiting the effectiveness of traditional monetary tightening. High interest rates may stifle growth without addressing root causes. So what it does, high interest rate, is that everybody wants to tax everything. Want to tax everything. But the thing is, investors will start running. If the tariffs are high, everything is high. Why? There's no need bringing my investment to a place where I will be, clamped down upon. Then the social impact is another one. Soaring food and fuel prices disproportionately affect low-income households, risking social unrest and further economic instability. Potential solution. There are short-term and long-term solutions to this situation. Let's talk about the short-term mitigation first of all. First is social safety net. The country can, so far we've been hearing that whether people receive it or not, or maybe there are particular set of people who benefit from that, because the disgruntling voices around the country and the dissenting voices around the country shows that the proposed or supposed transfers and all those subsidies and all those programs does not touch everybody. What we see on paper are millions and billions being doled out, but real people don't get that money basically. So cash transfers, food subsidies or public work programs to shield vulnerable population, fuel price stabilization, temporary price control or phase subsidy removal to ease shock. At the moment, the country can, control the price around the fuel pumps around the country to avoid the unnecessary hike, because Nigerians, as we know them, most times are a bit greedy. People want to, make all the money in a day. So he sees that this person is selling 1,000, he makes his own 1,200. But if there is a quick, price control of the fuel sector, oil sector, everything will get better with time. Another one is another short term is Forex and the monetary reforms. Exchange rate flexibility. Transition to a market-driven Forex regime to reduce arbitrage and restore investor confidence. Another one is Forex reserve management. Prioritize building reserves through oil revenue optimization and the diaspora remittance incentives. These are what the government should do. Optimize these building reserves. Prioritize it, build reserve through oil revenue, because now we are dependent on oil. You can build it through that oil revenue and then diaspora remittances from around the world. Structural reform. One is diversification. Invest in agriculture. Invest in agriculture. The Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, kept hammering on this, from consumption to production. We have the most arable land around the world. The land in Nigeria is so fertile that it can grow anything. Why is Nigerian government not investing deeply in agriculture, mechanized agriculture? Let me tell you the effect. Once we venture into mechanized agriculture, use the very vast lands in Nigeria for agriculture, different types of agriculture, food farming, livestock farming, and everything. When we do this, the food prices drop immediately, and you stop hearing complaints from people, because now tomato is cheap, rice is cheap, beans is cheap, millet is cheap, everything is cheap. The average individual just wants to survive, to find food to eat. Another one is, and then debt management. Avoid deficit financing through money printing or borrowing. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to curb inflationary pressures. In conclusion, Nigeria's inflation crisis requires a balanced approach. Immediate relief for citizens, disciplined forex management, and long-term structural reforms. We've talked about the structural reform, the subsidy redirect, and the debt management. Then success hinges on political will, social consensus, and coordination between fiscal and monetary authorities. Without addressing underlying inefficiencies and the deep dependency on oil, inflationary pressure are likely to continue in Nigeria. If we keep dependent on oil, and then if we don't address our monetary policy in Nigeria and how we control the forex system, our foreign reserves and everything, if we don't manage these well, and then if we don't stop our overdependence on oil, if we don't stop, because let me tell you the effect of our overdependence on oil. It makes us vulnerable to fluctuation of prices of oil. Once the oil price drops, the country is suffering. If it goes up, we're a bit relaxed. Why can't we diversify? Diversify. Go into agriculture. Go into industries. Teaming young number of graduates in different fields of engineering can be sponsored to learn and do research on so many areas. Nigeria is destined to be great, but the greatness doesn't come from a sudden flight. We must put in the work. We must put in the work. I pray on the Nigerian government to listen to some of these suggestions. Stop the unnecessary borrowing. Every time we have borrowed up to the tune of 87 trillion. For what? When we can diversify and they have our own say in the international table. Remember, tell me what you think about these issues, our foreign exchange issues, the inflation. What do you think about it? Is there any other solution you think we could, leverage to make our Nigeria better again? Let me know in the comment section. As usual, subscribe, share, like, and engage. This still remains a diary of a broken man. Thank you for watching. Cheers.